Good day. Shall I on silent? So I have to give myself a spin. You are? Mate? Oh, not a gambler, mate. Know nothing about it. I'm not a big gambler, that's for sure.
Vinny, would you like to start, please?
Yeah, sure. Sean, start with team news. And Seamus Coleman, how's he?
Yeah, he's got a niggly hamstring, which he'll need a bit of time to settle down, I think. And he's been in fine form, so obviously that's another awkward one for us. But yeah, it shouldn't be too long, but he won't make it for the weekend.
Is Nathan Patterson then 100% fit? Because I suppose you've also got the option of switching Ben Godfrey to the right-hand side and bringing Mikel.
Yeah, it's as much game time with Poe, coming back after an injury and then spending a bit of time out. So it's as much game time, and with the way things have worked with the international and stuff, even getting sort of reserve games, it's been awkward. So yeah, game time as much as anything, but he's certainly in the thinking. And
Dominic Calvert-Lewin, what truth is there that he will be available to you this weekend?
The truth is he's training and going along well.
How's his training regime going at the moment?
Good.
With someone like Dominic, when he's available again, and no disrespect to Ellis Sims, because he's obviously still learning his trade in some respects, but does it make it easier when you've got a focal point to play someone like Demarai Gray off that front man?
Well, I think having good players available, and there's plenty of good players here, but having good players available is always the start point. And it helps if you've got strikers available who are proven, and he is a proven striker.
What are you also seeing from Tom Davies, from James Garner to push to fill the role that Abdoulaye Doucouré has filled so well for you?
Yeah, they're going well. I mean, Jimmy's, returning after an injury, but he's had a number of weeks now with us and training hard and training well. And Tom's been at the club a longer period and played games, so he understands the role. We want flexibility within the squad, and it's needed. If you do get injuries, it is needed. So, we'll certainly have our thinking on with Duke coming out the side, who's done ever so well, of course, and trying to change the best way that we can be effective.
Just on Tom, obviously he's a free agent in the summer. What do you see as his long-term future?
Yeah, like I said to you a few weeks ago, we're in open communication with all these players and their agents.
Fulham are on a 4-game losing run at the minute in the Premier League, 5 including the cup defeat to Manchester United. The worst run of the season prior to that was 4 games without a win, 2 wins, 2 draws in that time. So I suppose the recent run shouldn't really overcloud what has been a decent job that Marco Silva's doing.
No, did a very good job. The Championship, you've got to come out of there, and they did, and comfortably so. And then they've had a fantastic start. An awkward spell, but that can happen in the Premier League. We certainly know that, and it can happen to anyone, more or less. You'd like to, well, I suppose it can happen to anyone. Look, Chelsea have had a tough spell, so it can happen. And it's unlikely when your club's outside of the Big Six. It's unlikely you don't have a spell like that. We've got to safeguard against that, any reactions to that. But we've got to, we stepped slightly off it at Man U, but they played very well. But the other performances have been strong, I think, the way we've gone about it. Home particularly, and the feeling in the stadium has been absolutely fantastic. We've got to use all them things to our advantage.
When you say the players slipped slightly off it against Manchester United, what do you say to them to make sure that they are bang on it when it comes back to Goodison Park this week?
Well, no, sometimes you have to remind them of the truth on the day. They were better than us, particularly first half. Second half we calmed the game down a bit, but they even some of the players at Man U I know and staff there, it's their best performance for a while. That can sometimes happen. And we sort of hung in there, so that some of the habits were good, and we defended well at times when we had to, last ditch as it was. But it's just if you come off slightly in the Premier League, it finds you out, and it did on that day, but against a very good side. So we've got to make sure that we remind ourselves of the performances before that. It's not just about the last one doesn't guarantee the next one, good or bad. It's about that whistle blows and you're ready to go. I say it all the time because I mean it.
Just back to Fulham, what difference do you see when they're missing someone like Mitrovic, and also how does it impact a side when the manager is serving a touchline ban? Does it impact them at all?
Well, I haven't served one, so I'm hoping not. Yeah, I'm hoping not to learn that experience. But it happens. Moments in a game, and sometimes these flashpoints happen. And at the end of the day, I don't know that experience, but missing players for anyone. If you're missing good players, and Mitrovic is a good player, then it's bound to have some kind of effect. And you want people to step in. That's certainly my thinking here.
Obviously, it's another opportunity. And you look at the fixtures. I don't know how much you do look at the other fixtures, but there's tough games for those sides in and around you as well. Do you look at it again as an opportunity to open up just a little bit of daylight between yourselves and the bottom?
The biggest thing I believe in with it, and I think I might have said this before, but I certainly have in-house, is that you take a lucky one. I've said it before. You take a lucky one. You take one where a fixture might go your way. A fixture outside of your one, or 2 or 3 can sometimes go your way. But at the end of the day, you want to do it by design. We're trying to build something here that can be down to us. What we're doing, what we're playing like, what we're achieving. That's the main focus. And I think I definitely said before, Woney has a good saying. There has to be a future in it. And as much as you will take a lucky one, or you take one when it's not your day, but you still win, or you get a point and all that. Of course, you take them over a season. They're still important. But you want to see a performance. You want to see a team that are performing in the right manner with the right things to go and win games. And that's certainly a more important factor rather than just hoping for the best with other teams' results.
A couple of things to check with you away from the game. Just on Jordan Pickford, there was a report that there's a verbal agreement for him to leave.
Who reported it? I'm always intrigued.
I can't tell you that.
Of course you can't, yeah.
When you're hearing stories like that, there's no verbal agreement as regards. And obviously we've seen the reports on Dele Ali this week. I realise he's under contract on a loan contract at the moment, but at the same time this is his parent club. So what action does the football club, do you take? Do you speak to him? Because people are saying or believing that this could be the end of his career.
Well, he's not here, obviously. He's got an injury, which will keep him out for some time, so that needs to be dealt with. Some of the stuff that's been reported, he's 26. He knows, like most footballers, they know certain things they should be doing, shouldn't be doing. But at the end of the day, as a manager, forgetting about Everton Football Club, as a manager, you can't control everything they do in their lives. There seems to be this myth when they say, "What's the manager doing?" You go, "What about what? Following around every minute of every day that they live their lives." You can only guide people with what you think is good for them, and eventually players have choices. So we recommend they make good choices, of course. But behind that, he's factually injured. He's come back with a proper injury that's going to take some time to get sorted out. So he'll use that period wisely, I hope.
Have you spoken to him, and do you feel that you can get him, I suppose, back on track?
I just feel that he needs to get his injury right, and then we'll take it from there, because it's not going to be like a week. It's going to be a number of weeks.
Got to Stuart, Premier Productions. Hi, Sean.
Hiya.
You've got 4 home games to go. How important is the Goodison factor going to be in that regarding the supporters?
Well, we'll see. It's certainly, we want it to be important because we want to build that mentality at home, that fortress throughout the fans and the way they go about it. And they have been doing. They've been excellent. I mean, I couldn't question it at home or away, but I couldn't question them. And I think the team have somewhat responded, at home and some of the away performances, like I say, stepped off a little bit last week. But generally the team have responded and given the fans something to cheer about as well, because, it's not just a one-way street, this. The players have to use their energy, but then give the energy to the fans. And I think that's been a good balance so far. But you can't just guarantee the home. We want to change the mentality away. It's been well documented before my time in the last couple of seasons. The away form has not been where everyone wants it to be, including myself. So looking at different ways of taking that on, because over a Premier League season, if you're building a real mentality, then you should be going away with the same kind of home mentality, apart from your fans, of course, but the on-pitch mentality to take everything that comes your way and take it on. And I think that's a mindset change that we've been working with the players on.
Lots of your players went through this last season successfully in the end. Does that positive experience in the end, help?
I think it helps. I think the control of a performance can help, and being through that experience before. We want to change that, quite obviously. But it's a valid thing to have when you need it, so we want that to help. But it's still, everything counts in football. So every time that whistle blows, it's every detail of every performance, every bit of focus. And alongside that, finding that, it's hard to explain, but there's like a professional way of playing that's still relaxed enough where you can perform. It's finding that nice balance between focused on the job and fully concentrated, but also that freedom to go and play. And, I think that's when teams are playing well and they're free-flowing, that's the measure that you find. And we're certainly discussing that with players and how we find that. We've seen patches of it and we've seen some really good signs of it. And now it's taking it on as a consistent basis.
Goal scoring has been a bit of an issue this season, but 3 clean sheets, I think, in your 5 Goodison games so far. How much work are you putting into the defensive organisation? Because obviously clean sheets mean that you've got a great chance of winning the game.
Well, I think, when I came here, there was a lot of talk at both ends of the pitch, and we had to start with one, and I think the base to work from, if you like, the energy of the team, the culture of the team, but also the organisation. We felt that was important, the way that we wanted to go forward, so we worked on that side of things. that the finest balance you need to strike is when you get the defensive format right and the work ethic and the belief in the team, but then also the attacking format right. And we've shown better signs of that, statistically. And we've got to keep doing that. We've got to keep getting the balance right. Because the Premier League's an unforgiving league, we all know that, and you have to get the balance right at both ends. So that's certainly a big focus of the staffs and going into the players as well.
You were sort of rarely involved in an intense relegation battle with Burnley because you were usually safe with games to spare. So how are you finding the situation? Do you look at the fixtures and the permutation?
You don't have to look too far beyond my time, Burnley, to realise that it ended well, but there was periods in the season when it is tough. That's just the reality of the Premier League. It can happen to more or less, not literally everyone, it seems. I doubt Man City will find themselves in that situation currently, but it's happened to most teams. You fall down there for a spell, you have to find your way and navigate your way through it. So there's not an exact way of doing it, but I think I know some ways that are very important to us.
Thank you, Stuart. We'll go to Julia, BBC Radio Merseyside.
Hiya. I'll just have a quick well, unless you've heard something.
We'll just chat a little bit more about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Obviously, he's always the person you're asked about most in press conferences ever since you've started here, and there's a lot of pressure when he returns to the squad, whether that be this weekend or as soon as he goes out on the pitch. How can you manage that pressure on him? Because it is a lot for him, isn't it?
There's no pressure from me.
There is from the outside, though.
It's relative. That's football. If you want to be a big player, you're going to take what comes your way. He's a big player. He's played for England, scored goals, had fantastic seasons here at times, so that's what comes. That's part of being a professional footballer. Everyone should want that, really, because if you're under some kind of whatever kind of pressure it is, then it's for a reason. That's usually a top player. I remember seasons ago, probably not every season, but certain seasons when Harry Kane was questioned, he ends up in the top scorers virtually every year. So he deals with it. It's a way of dealing with it. You find your way of dealing with it, both as an individual, guidance from the staff, his teammates around him. But he's not the only one here. There's other players under pressure. What about the players who haven't got them records, the ones who are trying to get their way into the game, to try and forge their way forward into the game and be them people who get the noise and the pressure? That's all part of it.
Jordan Pickford's performance has been praised against United despite the results. Now you work with him closely and you see him day to day, are you surprised that there's still sometimes debates in the media about his England place?
It happens, like you were just saying about Dominic, and it happens. You become a big player. It's very rare that the big players just have a constant stream of positives. There's always someone out there. It doesn't make news unless you're going to pick with things. That's the way it goes. So I'm sure he's well used to that. I'm sure he's well versed in it at his age with his experience. I don't think that's a drastic problem to him. I think he's been through it. He's heard the noise, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Most players have when they get to a certain age, and particularly if you're a top player. And you find your way of focusing throughout that. And you find your inner belief in your consistent values and what you stand for.
Someone who's not here at the moment, but he's doing really well at Preston, is Tom Cannon. How closely do you keep an eye on that? Do you speak to him? Because I know you've been watching the under-21s, but I just wondered about with him being out on loan and doing.
No, not at the moment. I mean, a lot of the younger players, they're out there for reasons, doing well. They've got people here who monitor it. There's a time and a place when that will come my way. But at the minute, we're just monitoring from a distance. When I meet them and they come back in, then we'll share a view. But sometimes best left alone. The part of the loan experience has always been a belief of mine. Even knowing the players a lot better at my time at Burnley, I didn't used to be all over them, neither my staff. Part of their growth is for you to not be doing that. Part of their growth is to be in someone else's hands. Part of their growth is to be away from the kind of safeness of the environment and going into a new one and taking that on and all the new voices and everything that comes with it. So actually, I wouldn't some other players anyway. In fact, that some of them I don't know at all, have never met them, then why would I get in the way of their progress, especially when they're doing well, which it certainly seems like he is doing. I get reports, of course, I'm aware, but I don't get reports on them as people, rather.
You mentioned there's no Seamus this weekend. I just wondered, just generally in the squad, is there any other injuries or anyone available?
Just some knocks and things we've got to keep an eye on, but sort of standard stuff at this stage. We'll see. Obviously, it's a Thursday. We'll see that nothing happens tomorrow, hopefully.
Good luck.
Thank you. We'll go to Shamoon at BBC Online, please.
Hi, Sean. Just one from myself this week. Premier League clubs today agreed to withdraw the gambling sponsorship on the front of their shirts. How important is a positive step like that to be made here in England?
Well, it's a collective decision. I've just read it myself, so it's a collective decision by the looks of things. So all parties have agreed with that. I'm not going to get too involved in the debates of judging about it. but they've made a collective decision. That's the way it goes. Everyone, by the accountants, everyone has agreed, and therefore I think it's 25-26. I think I read. So then it disappears.
Thank you, Shamin. We'll go to Will.
Hi, Sean. Just Andros Townsend. Just wondering, obviously he's been
Start that again. Sorry.
Andros Townsend. He's been
Andros,
out for more than a year now. I assume he'll take a few weeks when he's back on the grass to get up to speed. Is it looking like he might be?
Well, serious knee injury. He's had his ups and downs, but he seems to be in a better place at the minute with his injury and how that's going. We've just got to monitor that as the weeks go by. You can't force these things when you've got an injury like that. It takes time, and his body will adapt, but it does take time. So we're just working with him. The medical team are working with him, and he's working very hard himself.
Do you think he could play again this season at all? Or?
We'll have to wait and see.
Just another one report on Isaac Price. Looks like he's going to be leaving the club at the end of the season. What can you say about that? Do you think Everton's offer to Isaac has been a fair offer, not just in terms of monetary, but the pathway that the club can give him as well?
Well, I don't know the history of it, obviously. Coming in, I think there's a fair view of the young players here. You've seen Simsy play games, and the like. So there's a fair view of them. A couple of the younger lads have been overtraining with us, the really young lads. A couple of us, the under 18s as well. So, I certainly believe in that and the pathway for young players. Takes different parties now. They've got to see it the same way. Some young players and their advisors don't see it the same way. But that's just part of football life.
Thank you, Will. Any more questions in the open section? Okay, thanks everyone. We'll move.